at the company, joining us this afternoon. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on ET Now. And let's talk about the volume growth. And wanted to know, is there double-digit exit volume growth in December expected to continue in the December quarter? And if you could provide some guidance on the volume as well as the demand environment going forward for Asian Paints?
So overall, as we see that, I think the secondary sales in the market in December have been pretty good, and the demand conditions across the country have been fairly favorable. What we see is that we are fairly optimistic about the demand conditions going into the next quarter, and therefore our clear take is that while possibly the demand conditions might not be as buoyant as we have seen in the first half of the year, but we are pretty positive that as we kind of go ahead, the demand conditions would be quite reasonable basis the December trends which we have seen.
So thank you so much for taking our time. Pankaj also joining in. Can you talk about volumes which were flat, but overall sales was low despite price hike? So was there some kind of downtrading seen in paints?
So overall, when we look at, I don't think so we should read too much into the quarter in terms of the volumes and the value, because of a very high price increase base. The industry has never seen a price increase of almost 15% in any quarter in the last about 40 years to that extent. And therefore, the base has been unprecedented. And therefore, if we look at from the point of view of volume and value for the quarter, it got affected just simply because the base was very high, and given the fact that monsoons extended well into October. We also saw in the last year base, given the higher price increases on the high value kind of products, we had a very high kind of stocking in the network at the retailer level in terms of the high value products. That is why if you look at as a comparable quarter, definitely the product mix has been a little bit inferior in terms of how we have seen. But going forward, we do not see any big worries in terms of the product mix not recovering back and getting in terms of what we have seen in the first half of the year.
Right, Mr. Syngle, let's talk about your Capex plans. And we know that there is a competition risk looming in the paint industry. Are you planning to take up your Capex plan more aggressively going ahead? What's your take on the competition in the entire industry right now?
So I think competition has always been around. If we look at the last 20 years, I don't think so the nature of the competition has changed as we see it. And today, all the players who are kind of trying to enter the industry are only talking of Capex plans and no sales plans in terms of what we see. So therefore, I don't think so that the competition scenario has changed. I think we are fairly comfortable in terms of how the environment is. We have announced increase in terms of capacities by announcing a new plant of 4 lakh KL and spending about 2,000 crores on it. Earlier also, we have announced brownfield expansion in terms of capacity. So overall, given our performance in the last 3 years and the kind of buoyancy we have seen in terms of the volumes, we feel that these capacities would be required by us as we kind of move forward at the same pace in terms of what we are moving. All these accruals are happening internally from our cash and reserves. We are not borrowing any money for it, and we are fairly comfortable in terms of the overall profitability and therefore the reserves which we are able to garner as we kind of go ahead.
2 price hikes have been taken on the back of raw material increase, which are now cooling off. Are you looking at reversing them?
So overall, the margins have improved in a very, very strong manner. If we look at the gross margins also have sequentially grown more than 3% in this quarter. And the PBTI margins have also gone up by almost about 4% and above. So I think the improvement in the margins has been very, very substantial, which kind of really gets us back into the band, which of about 17 to 20% of the PBTIT we have been talking of in a strong manner. As we kind of go ahead, we think there would be further improvement in terms of the margins because we are expecting some more softening in terms of prices. And we have not been able to take the full impact of the deflation in this quarter. So the full realization will come in the next quarter. We are assessing the situation very, very critically and seeing how raw material prices are panning out, because the raw material price reduction is not uniform across the category of raw materials. Depending on our assessment, how the entire softening of raw material is concerned, we will look at possibly seeing what price changes we need to kind of take as we kind of go ahead. As of now, we are not taking any changes.
Right, Mr. Syngle, world over, we've actually heard the R word make a comeback, and that is recession. Have you gone back to the drawing board to formulate a strategy on how you and your company will overcome this recession, if there is any?
So overall, what we see is that I think the Indian economy is something which is fairly sound. It's a consumption market in a very strong way. The government is also forecasting a GDP which is going to be anywhere between 6 and 7% as we see for the coming year. So we feel that while there are recessionary trends which are being witnessed largely from the point of view of US and some of the Western economies, the impact would be a bit lower as far as India is concerned, given the fact that we are in a very good, strong consumption market, and the prediction for the GDP is also fairly strong in terms of what the government is saying. So we do see some effect which is going to come in terms of some sectors, but as we look at the entire area of construction, building materials and so on and so forth, we still see a very strong market ahead as we kind of go ahead from a point of view of demand conditions.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for taking out time for us. Good to get perspective from you. On that note, we're taking a break. Nifty down 8 points as